Hello, I'm Chidem. Welcome to Live Like a Scientist. I believe science isn't only for researchers. It is for anyone trying to understand the world. So in this podcast, we will talk about what science looks like in everyday life. Have you ever walked into an office kitchen where every single person probably prefers a clean sink? Yet somehow, the sink is always full of dishes. No one wants this outcome, right? But it happens anyway. So if we all benefit from cooperation, in this example, doing our own dishes, why do we so often fail to cooperate? Why is it so hard for groups to do what everyone knows is best? Not only for ourselves, but for everybody. So let's ask some further questions to ourselves. Do you return your shopping cart once you load your car at the grocery store? Do you turn off the lights in your office when not using it? Do you pick up after your dog at 2 a.m. when there is nobody around? Have you ever donated your blood? A collective action problem happens when a group of people, they would all benefit from a certain outcome, but each individual has an intensive not to contribute to making it happen. So the key tension here is that what is good for all of us collectively may not be the rational choice for each of us individually. So imagine a neighborhood who wants a cleaner public park, right? This is what everyone wants. No one wants dirty parks. Everyone would enjoy having a clean park, but cleaning it takes an effort and time. So as an individual, you might think, why should I spend my Saturday picking up trash? Other people can do it, and once the park is clean, I'll get to enjoy it anyway. But if everyone thinks that way, nobody will clean the park. So that's the collective action problem. The interesting part about collective action problem is incentives. Social science doesn't tell us that people are selfish. It just reminds us that good intentions aren't always enough. The systems we create and the trust we build determine whether an individual action becomes collective success. So when the cost is personal but the benefit is shared, cooperation becomes increasingly difficult. Every day, we are participating in dozens of collective action problems without even realizing it. Like every traffic jam, every election, every neighborhood, every workplace, they're full of collective action problems. Just another example. So let's say 1,000 people all want a policy to change. And protesting is a way to change a policy. Attending a protest costs you several hours though, perhaps money, and possibly some social or professional risks. So you might think, as a reasonable, rational person, if 999 other people show up, whether I personally go probably won't change the outcome. And if the protest succeeds, I will benefit from the policy change anyway. So staying home can make perfect sense from your individual perspective. But now imagine everyone making exactly the same calculation. The protest that everyone wanted to succeed never happens. So that's why collective action problems are actually very interesting for social scientists to study. Individually reasonable decisions do not always produce collectively desirable results. So we call those who don't contribute but expect others to do it something we all know, something we all heard, something we all say, free riders. Yes. Think about things such as clean air, national defense, safer neighborhoods, political rights, environmental protection, or some other certain public policies. Once those benefits exist, it can be difficult or impossible to exclude people who didn't contribute from enjoying them. So according to Menker-Olson, shared interests don't automatically produce collective action. In fact, as groups become larger, the problem can become more difficult because each person's contribution feels less consequential and free riding becomes easier. So we can evaluate a common assumption here. If everyone is rational and self-interested, shouldn't everyone free ride? Assumptions are to be tested, empirically tried and proven right or wrong. So other scholars didn't just believe in this assumption straightforward, and they did some experiments. They wanted to understand this, and they wanted to explore how this assumption looks like when we test actual human behavior. So they did this experiment called public goods game. Imagine 4 people, and they are each given $20. They can keep as much as they want, as much as of that $20, or they can put some of it into a shared group account. Whatever goes into the account doubles, like it's multiplied, let's say doubled in this case, and then divided equally among all 4 players, regardless of how much each person contributed to start with. So if everyone contributes all their $20, the group puts in $80, right? We said 4 people. So it becomes $160. And everyone walks away with 40 bucks. They started with 20, everyone contributed all they had, and they all doubled their money. So this is clearly the best choice for the group. It is the best when everyone contributes. But there is a catch. You personally can make even more if everyone else contributes, but you don't. You keep your own $20. So what would you do in this case? Would you put all of your money in, or just keep yours and wait for others to do it? Classical economic theories predicted that rational, self-interested players would contribute nothing. Why put your money in when you receive your share of the group account, regardless of your contribution? So that was the early thought. But when researchers actually ran these experiments, that's not what they found. They found that people typically contributed a substantial amount, often around 40 to 60% of their initial endowment in one shot or early rounds. That surprised researchers because people were cooperating even when pure self-interest suggested that they shouldn't. But there was another interesting finding. When the game was repeated, so there were multiple rounds, cooperation often declined over time. People became frustrated when they saw others not contributing, but they still get their share at the end. So they started to reduce their own contribution, right? Like, why wouldn't copy the others? Then researchers changed the rules. So players were given the opportunity to punish free riders. Even when punishing someone cost the punisher money, many people choose to do it. And cooperation increased drastically. So when researchers allowed participants to communicate with one another before deciding, cooperation increased too. Even simple discussion could help people make promises, establish experiences, and build trust. So the public goods game reveals something more complicated than either people are selfish or people are cooperative. So many of us are conditional cooperators. We are willing to cooperate when we believe others will contribute too. And our willingness to cooperate depends enormously on trust, communication, and whether there are consequences for people who take advantage of everyone else. So many people assumed from collective action problems that the lesson is people are selfish. Instead, empirical research suggests that something like more interesting. People are conditional cooperators. Most people are willing to contribute if they believe others will do too. So this debate became even more interesting when we put Garrett Hardin and Elinor Ostrom side by side. So in his famous 1968 essay, The Tragedy of Commons, Hardin asked us to imagine a shared pasture open to multiple herders. Each herder benefits personally from adding another animal, while the cost of overgrazing is spread across everyone. So individually, rational decisions eventually destroy the resource they all depend on. Hardin's argument was deeply pessimistic about our ability to solve collective action problems on our own. He says without some form of external constraint, shared resources are vulnerable to overuse. So according to Tragedy of Commons, the assumption is people will just overuse the resources and the common good will fail. But decades later, political scientist Ostrom showed that tragedy is not inevitable. And she won a Nobel Prize with this experiment. So she studied real communities around the world had been managing forests, fisheries, irrigation systems, and other common resources, and they didn't fail. Like it somehow worked, cooperation worked. She found that people were often capable of developing their own rules to govern them sustainably. They communicated, they monitored one another, created consequences for rule breaking. Like we just said earlier in the first experiments, if there is a punishment, people start contributing more, right? So they built institutions suited to their particular communities. Ostrom wasn't arguing that people will simply cooperate just for the sake of cooperation or just because they are nice. In fact, her work is much more interesting than that. Like she showed that the institutions surrounding us can change the incentives we face and make cooperation possible. Right? So if a Harding gives us the collective action problem, like why wouldn't each of us take as much as we can from a shared resource? Ostrom pushes us toward the next question. What kinds of rules, relationships, and institutions allow us to overcome that problem? It's one of the most optimistic findings in political science and economics. Like humans are actually pretty good at cooperation. The puzzle isn't that we cooperate too little. It is that cooperation is fragile. So we need to get better at small changes in incentives, trust, communication, and then we can completely change whether a group succeeds or not. So there is still a chance. And I'll just we can give endless examples for collective action problem, right? Global warming, getting vaccinated or not, paying taxes. Like you can imagine a city where every resident decided, I'll litter just one piece of trash. So if everyone does that, the city would quickly become filthy. Yet, like each individual piece seems insignificant. Just like one piece of paper is gonna ruin the neighborhood. But collective action problems emerge precisely because individually rational choices can produce collectively undesirable outcomes, as we said. And as the group gets bigger, our own little action starts seeming unimportant. But that's not the case. Collectively, we'll still face problems. So that's why every time when I think about a collective action problem, I think about rationality a lot. I observe around myself too, we use rationality as a very easy word for any situation. Even when we have an argument with someone, the first attack I hear a lot is that you're not being rational. This is the rational thing to do. People approach rationality like there is only one rational outcome, and everyone looks at it from their own perspective. But it's not true. Rationality means everyone's decisions are bound by their own end goals. So here, when it comes to collective action problem, again, I question rationality itself a lot. Like, we often describe people as rational when they maximize their immediate individual benefits. Like, why should I pay more taxes if I can keep that money for myself? Why should I spend time voting, recycling, or like contributing to something when my individual contribution is so small? But that definition of rationality can be very short-sighted. Imagine that I successfully minimize my taxes year after year. I have more money in my pocket, but I still have to live in the society those taxes help sustain. I drive on its roads, depends on its infrastructure. I need competent doctors and nurses, hired workers educated in its schools, rely on its emergency services, and benefit from living among healthy, educated, economically secure people. Like, my neighbors matter too. It's not only how much money I save and low crime rates, right? If everyone pursues only the immediate individual payoff, we can gradually undermine the very public goods that make our individual lives better. So a decision in the short term can look perfectly rational when we calculate its benefits for me right now, only for myself, and deeply irrational when we calculate its consequences for all of us, including myself, over the next 20 years. So collective action problems remind us that individual interest and collective interest aren't always opposites. Very often, our long-term self-interest depends on our ability to sustain our collective goods we share today. So, collective action problems often appear in two opposite forms. With the tragedy of commons we talked about, the problem is that we take too much from something we all share, like we overfish the ocean, we overuse a common resource or pollute a shared environment. With public goods problems, we contribute too little. Like, we want good schools, functioning infrastructure, clean streets, public safety, or a healthy democracy, but we'd rather to have someone else pay the cost of it. So this brings me into something more personal, like one of the ways I judge personal character. I have tremendous respect for people who can see beyond their own immediate individual benefit and recognize that they are part of a larger system. Like, sometimes we mistake exploiting that system for intelligence. Someone avoids paying taxes and thinks, I was smart enough to keep my money. Someone finds a way to benefit from a public resource without contributing to it and thinks, like, why would I pay when I can get it for free? But I don't think contributing to the society you benefit from makes you naive, or I don't think tax evasion makes you clever. Being able to get away with something is not the same as being rational or smart. You still have to live in the society you are helping to create. You want educated people around you. You want functional roads and hospitals. You want better institutions, safe communities. So to me, a more sophisticated form of self-interest is understanding that my well-being is not independent of everyone else's. Sometimes contributing to the collective means accepting a small individual cost today because you understand that society we build together eventually comes back to each of us. So today I wanted to talk about this collective action problem, and I believe now that you listened to many examples I gave, from now on, every time when you read the news or you see someone littering on the streets, or your interactions with your coworkers or your classmates who don't contribute to the group project you were assigned to, you'll think about this. Collective action problems, it affects our lives every day. And until next time, keep asking questions like this, keep looking for evidence, and keep living like a scientist.